Larry Chen here. Welcome to my channel. Today we are in the Pacific Northwest. We got my friend Jeff Woodruff here, and this is a car that I've been wanting to feature for a while. We've been following along with this build, and I was just kind of curious to see how it would turn out, because the idea of building a brand new car from the ground up on paper, just basically taking the stock motor out at 0 miles and putting in whatever you want, sounds cool, but it's a lot of work and it's pretty insane. What's the story behind this car?
So I've always kind of like in the back of my head wanted to take something brand new and basically ruin it. You know, do it the way that I would do it if I were building a car. An employee of mine got one of these brand new. We just did simple coilovers, and I got to take it around the block, and I was like, really enjoyed how the car drove. So I'm like, this is something I could daily drive. And then looking forward like a couple weeks, I saw that Daigo Saito was building a couple of them as a comp car. And I was like, wow, I already know where this is going. Saw that the car was getting completely stripped, 2JZ. And then I saw this Grady Tandem kit, and that is what sold it for me. As soon as I saw the front bumper, I purchased the kit before I even had the car. And then the search for finding one of these, because these are not easy to get right now.
This is a very desirable car right now.
Exactly. And the demand is high and the supply is low.
So how did you find this particular car?
So actually, my office kid had one of these on hold in black, but it wasn't going to land for about 3 to 4 months. And he ended up finding, in the meantime, a white one. You can see back in the background that's getting the same kit and modifications instead. And he could not get his money back for the deposit on a black one. So that, to me, is what finally drove the project to actually happening. Fast forward to the week of when the black car was supposed to land, they actually ended up canceling his deposit and refunding it, I assume because they've been marking them up and they sold it to him at MSRP.
Ooh.
And that basically put a halt to this build. I already had, this expensive body kit, pretty much had the whole car built in my head. So the search began just Googling. I didn't even know how to find one of these cars because you can't even call your local Toyota. They're not going to tell you who else has one in the area coming because they're not going to get anything from the sale. So there's that. So I actually went to Google, started trying to find dealerships in the area, just calling manually, old school style. Wasn't having very good luck, so I ended up coming across an Auto Trader listing. The dealerships had them posted on Auto Trader. So I was calling as far as Maine, all the way down to Florida, all the way down to LA.
All over the US.
All over, trying to figure out a black manual so I didn't have to also do an auto conversion at the same time. And black, there was no negotiation. I only wanted black. All my cars are black. It is what it is. That's the only thing I wanted. I didn't want to have to repaint a whole car. I wanted to do this quick because I actually wanted to be the first to put a 2JZ and a GR86 in North America.
It's crazy because when a car comes out like this, the internet warriors, the keyboard warriors will say, why didn't Toyota put a 2J in it, like jokingly. Why didn't Toyota put a 2J in it? Well, you made it yourself, and now you get to drive it and enjoy it. And let's dive into this thing. So you found this locally then?
Locally
you found this
on Auto Trader, I got so lucky. There was actually like 2 or 3 that were fitting the category of black manual. No deposit were made, and that's another thing. Most of the ones coming in have a deposit down on them already. They're already basically sold. So getting your name on one is, besides ordering one, is pretty difficult. So most of the ones were ranging from $10,000 over MSRP, $5,000.
$10,000 on a $30,000 car?
Exactly, and I was like, I want to be the first, but I also want to get ripped off. So I ended up finding this one. It was $3,500 over MSRP. I did find another one that was only $2,500, but it was basically in the Midwest, and after shipping and everything and dealing with trying to do the purchasing of the vehicle over the phone, it would have just been way more headache, and it would have cost me, if not the same or more. Yeah. So I decided to go with the one that was only 8 miles away. It was landing between 2 to 3 weeks, and it was perfect. And I just sucked it up, paid $3,500 over MSRP, trailered the car from the dealership about 8 miles, took it here, pulled the motor out the same hour that I signed the papers.
So how many miles was on the stock motor when you pulled the motor?
4 miles when it arrived. I declined all services of removing the PDI, all the stickers, I requested them not to drive the car, detail it, put gas in it, all of that, because I knew I was going to be opening up the fuel tank, everything else.
Right.
Just don't do anything. I'll pick it up as is.
It still had Japanese gas in it,
Exactly.
and all the plastic wrap, everything was still around it. They didn't even drill any holes for the license plate or anything.
Yeah, I made it very clear, do not drill any holes for the license plate. Please don't pull any of the PDI stuff off, because it was actually helping me protect the paint while I was doing all these crazy modifications. And the first startup was actually on the original fuel that came in the car.
Oh my god. So what did you do with the stock motor? Is it laying around?
Yeah, it's just laying in the shop. I did get a quote on how much it would cost me to walk in there and say, hey, how much are one of these long blocks? I blew up my motor, or whatever the scenario is. And it was about $23,000. So I think I'm going to sit on it, marinate.
Yeah.
I've been hearing these stories of the motors having issues. I'm not going to put any names of the people that are having issues out there, but I mean, I'm sure the internet will.
Yeah. Okay. So
that.
let's just look at this engine bay because it is so good. This is just OEM plus 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 plus. Like this is everything right about a brand new build. What are we looking at here?
This is a factory 2JZ GE out of like an IS300, GS300. It is mostly stock actually. It has ARP head studs. It's got a turbo GTE multi-layer gasket because the NA motors only have a single layer gasket. It has turbo pistons and rods, King race bearings, and everything else is stock. Stock cam, stock valve train. It's got anti-lag, it's got drive-by-wire.
And then so the reason why you take the NA motor, which makes about 200 horsepower stock, and turn them into the turbo motor is because it's a lot more affordable than getting a 2J GTE now.
Exactly. If this were, say 5 years ago, when the 1Js and 2Js were a lot easier to obtain and a lot more affordable, I definitely would have probably just dropped in a used setup just to speed up the process, because I definitely wanted to be the first person to do this.
But this is a similar setup to your drift car build as well.
Correct.
And this is also a package that you guys sell here at this shop.
Correct.
All right, so let's go over this. So this is like a VVTi motor? Or?
Yeah, so like probably came out of an IS300 or a GS300 that I bought, yanked the motor out, disassembled, cleaned, and then just put turbo pistons and rods, new rings, all new seals, and then slapped this thing in. I actually built this motor the night before I dropped it in the car, and then it was running the same day.
So like the long block, all that stuff is still stock?
Yeah, stock. Just refreshed, just new rings, all 24 machine, and then assembled back together by me.
Okay, so then you pull the original motor out, and what did you have to do to get this to fit?
So actually the chassis is pretty similar to the older 86 BRZ, all the older mounts and stuff. I didn't know for sure, but I had a suspicion that they were going to fit. So I already had swap mounts for the older 86 BRZ. I did have to modify the tunnel where the transmission bolts to, but the tunnel itself is very large. It's just the factory mounting position with the Subaru motor was a lot more further forward and it would not work.
So when you mention the tunnel, it's because it's using the stock transmission?
No, it's because the position of the Subaru motor is a lot further forward to get the flat four away from the firewall where it's kind of narrow.
God.
And the transmission bell housing actually sticks out probably 5-6 inches outside of the firewall. And with the JZ, I needed to be all the way against the firewall to get the weight off the nose of the car. Where that position, the transmission mounts, was actually right where the narrowest part of the tunnel was. So I basically just drilled out all the spot welds, reused those, and welded them back further, about 5 inches. And then that's exactly what's holding the engine in right now, is the factory mounting points just further back in the tunnel.
And then what about the actual transmission? What kind of transmission is it?
Right now, I'm just running just a standard Toyota W series, just because it's something I had laying around. It was quick. It was ready to go. I knew it would work for what I was trying to do. This is just a street car, but I do have plans of doing something as far as like a 6-speed.
What did that come out of?
That came out of a Mark IV Supra.
Oh, okay. All right.
So I already had the shifter in the perfect location. It's dead center, exactly where the factory shifter was with the original engine.
And because the reason why you wanted to start out with a manual car is because, the master cylinder, all that, the pedal setup is
it's actually
there.
really unique in this car. It's got if you notice where the master cylinder is, it's actually on the inner side of the brake master cylinder, which normally traditionally it would be exactly where the clutch pedal is on the firewall.
Got it.
So it has a rod and lever mechanism inside under the dash that basically pivots everything and mounts the clutch master right there. And if you notice, you can see that the reservoir is practically touching the fuel rail.
Yeah, it's
because
super
of how
close.
far back I have the motor set.
Okay. So what other things did you need to do for clearance? Did you need to move the radiator or anything like that?
So this is a LF swap Koyo radiator for a 240SX. The height measurements were perfect for what I was trying to do. It's a dual pass, good size, thicker than the factory radiator. The factory radiator is actually kind of like a slant, like kind of like a V-mount, but it was basically where the crank pulley was. So the radiator was definitely in the way and needed to stand straight up and down. So I went with something that would work in the height dimensions of being perfectly vertical.
So did you have to modify any of this stuff?
I did have to modify a little bit where the hood latch is, because also the hood latch on these cars are inboard of the core support instead of on the exterior.
It's crazy to me that you have the stock Toyota battery.
Yeah.
Like,
But
I guess
brand new.
why not? Yeah, it's brand new.
I was thinking about moving it to the trunk, but it's like I really like. There's not really any reason. Like it's pretty far away from the turbo. Brand new battery. It would have made things more complex and drawn out the build longer.
So it's
unnecessary.
Because for me, it's one thing to have like a FRS or GT86 with a 2J swap. They're, I wouldn't say common, but you know, it's been done.
Yeah.
And it's been done right. It's been done for drift cars. But the point of this one is that it's still a street car and it retains so much of the functionality of a street car.
Correct.
So like you still have the AC compressor on here.
I plan on having AC all plumbed in the next couple months here. So I went ahead and mounted that now. That way I could later on just make all my custom lines and get the AC working. Because that to me, that's like old man status. I think we're all younger when we're teenagers. We're looking to rip the weight out of the car and take the drag off of the pulley system and stuff like that. And just to me, like these motors make so much power now. I don't think it's really gonna affect the power. And I would like to have the AC because maybe I want to take this on a road trip down to California or Arizona.
So did you have a chance to dyno this setup?
I recently dynoed the setup. Jason at Link ECU was able to tune this thing for me while he was up here for FD Seattle. It made 500 to the wheels, and that was on pump gas. Pretty conservative. I actually had him dial it back a little bit to keep this transmission alive.
Is it the stock rear end then?
It's stock rear end, which is, I've talked with people like Kengushi that assured me that the stock rear end is very powerful. He was using them in his previous 8.6, very strong, had zero issues. So that led me to think that the factory diff would sustain the power.
Factory diff and axles and all of that. Because, so this is well over double the horsepower that the original motor came
Correct.
with. Pretty cool, pretty cool. Is there anything else you had to cut or modify to make it fit on the rear side?
have to cut anything. The factory, they have little strut tower braces that go to the firewall here in the center. I didn't really see any need for them, and I saw them as kind of a thing that was going to be in the way in the future, even though I wasn't completely sure. So I went ahead and removed them, drilled the spot welds out, the brackets on the firewall, so I could basically shift the motor back as far as I could.
What about your suspension setup? What's going on here?
Suspension is Yellow Speed Racing Coilovers, is a partner of my shops and Four Swings drift team that I'm a part of, and we have a really good relationship with them. So I definitely wanted to make sure I had Yellow Speed Racing coilovers on this car. I was actually able to pick them up from a local Subaru shop that the Yellow Speed USA dealer owns here in Tukwila, Washington. So I basically got these same day, put them on. Surprisingly, ride super good. I did not change the spring rates since I dropped the JZ motor in. There's factory spring rates for the Subaru motor, and it drives flawless. I don't even think there's any need to change them. It drives like a brand new car.
I mean, I'm assuming this is probably a lot heavier than the original motor.
Yes, I would assume from 350 to 400 pounds heavier. So from my knowledge, I was expecting to having to up the spring rates on these coilovers, but I don't know if it's just the dampening or what, or how far I was able to shift some of the weight back, but it rides amazing. And I don't even plan on changing the spring rates of this car.
And did you modify anything else up front here?
I did remove the ABS module. I probably could have made it work, but I actually went with
A power stop.
Power stop. Yeah, since it's basically built off of a Subaru. This is your actually STI power stop, full front and rear brake kit, bolted straight on. Little googling, to make sure that it was going to work, and yeah, it bolted right on.
So let's talk about the chassis or the body a little bit. You had to obviously match all of this with the stock black.
Correct.
How did that go?
It was a little bit surprising. So I bought this car. It was raining out. I trailered it here. Didn't really see it outside for very long because of the weather. And when I dropped off the kit to get it painted and picked it up, it was sunny out. And once I saw the color out in the sunlight, I was really concerned that it was not the color that my car was, because I was expecting a factory Toyota 202 black, which is what my S15 is. And when this thing was out in the sun, I was not confident in this being the same color as the chassis was, and it actually has a really nice blue metallic flake in the paint, and it looks amazing out in the sunlight. And once I got back to the shop, I cleaned off a portion of the car to reassure the colors were going to match, and it matches perfectly. A buddy of mine, Paul, that painted my S15, painted these bumpers in this wide body kit, and it matches perfect.
This is so cool. I love this kit so much.
Yeah, like I said in the beginning, this front bumper alone, just from the front shot. I like the back too, but the front was the reason why I wanted this kit. I don't care who made the car, what motor was in it. I was going to do everything I wanted to do to the car to make it unique.
And this is really functional in that it gives enough room for cooling. And
exactly.
Also for the
yeah,
cooler.
Big opening, really aggressive. I saw the inspiration for the intercooler. It's actually a Greddy intercooler as well, mounted upside down, and it kind of looks like a face, like an angry face from the front shot of it. And I got that inspiration from Daigo Saito's 286 builds.
So cool, so cool. All right, so we'll go around the side here. Like, what is Mirasan thinking? Like, how does he even come up with this stuff? It's insane. Like, this design, like I've had a chance to see this kit on Jonathan Castro's 86, and I already thought it was insane. But his car being a liveried car, it kind of like, I wouldn't say hides them, but it subdues a lot of these features.
Yeah, it blends in.
But like on a street car, I can't believe how much wider it is. It looks so much wider.
Right, yeah, it's actually 85 millimeters wider than the factory car. And the stance with it, I barely made it actually onto the dyno. Next time I take it there, I'll probably take the spacers off the car, so it's a little bit narrower. I don't have to worry about damaging my wheels getting on the dyno.
So all of this, it's these panels. Is the wing part of the kit?
The wing is part of the kit. It is optional. You do not have to purchase the wing with the kit. I think they have 2 or 3 different options for as far as wings. And this is the wing that I liked on the car. They do have more of a GT style higher wing that still looks cool in my opinion, but for a street car, I like the more of the low profile spoiler. Kind of reminds you of like a 326 power spoiler.
I love the fact that you left all of this stuff, like the shipping things, registration things, even to the point where there's legitimately no holes drilled in the bumper. Like you see where the indication markers are for them to drill the holes, but it's not drilled at all.
Right. Yeah, I specifically made it clear that I did not want any holes drilled in the car. I would do all the hole drilling.
Even like this is the shipping stuff. The Toyota Motor Corporation shipping papers.
Yeah, I still got the screen protector on the radio.
Yeah. So
even the seats still have the plastic on them.
So let's talk about the wheel and tire combo here. You really had to push it out so far just to fit the kit. What are we looking at here?
These are raised gram lights, 57 CRs. These are 18 by 10.5. These are actually my drift spares for my S15. I have a set of 19-inch 57 CRs in black on their way here, and I'm still waiting on them. So this is just something I made work with the time frame that I had. They got Falcon RT660s on them, 245s in the front, 255s in the rear. Just what I had laying around. Like I said, I will be looking into a more staggered look for this car, I did order staggered width wheels. These right now are 10.5 square.
This is it's like a perfect street car look. I mean, it's all black. I'm not a big fan of black wheels, but this pulls it off so nicely.
Honestly, I can completely agree with you on that. These are not the wheels I even ordered for my S15. The wheels I did order are pretty much the opposite of this color. I won't reveal what they are, but I'm still waiting on them, hoping they're gonna arrive, and maybe we can redo another video when those arrive. A lot more vibrant, I'll say.
Yeah, okay, cool. Let's check out the interior. There's just so much to talk about on the interior. Jeez. There's so many things that I'm just so blown away at. Like, all of these delivery things are still here just to kind of show off the fact that it is a brand new car, even all of this stuff, right? But the odometer still says 4 miles.
Yeah, that is because the speed sensor pickup is actually off the ABS sensor, and I removed those. I will have a GPS speed pickup point on this car to work with the link dash. That way I can kind of like make it a true street car. I don't really need the speed sensor just because I've been driving so long, I kind of know the speed limit, but it's nice to have reference, make sure you're not going to get any tickets driving this thing around, because it can definitely get out from under you and you might not realize how quick you're going.
You've gone through so many lengths to make sure everything works. What's not working?
So what's not working is my number one pet peeve, and really bumming me out because this is my first brand new car, actually. First car I've ever had to get a loan on, and it does have a factory rear camera, and it does not work right now, and it's a really big bummer.
I'm guessing this is probably something that you're probably going to have to get into. You're probably going to have to dig into to get working.
Yeah,
eventually.
I was fortunate enough to have another one of these cars right over here to kind of mess around and kind of figure out what the problem is, and I've narrowed it down. I don't have a solution yet, but I know what the problem is.
But it's also still crazy to me that so many things, like the radio, most of the dash, all the functionality of the car still works. Like right now, is the heater
The heater works. The heater's hooked up. Like I said previously, I have the AC pump on the motor. I will have that plumbed and working. That's definitely a must-have on a street car.
Yeah, and that's all going to work with just the stock setup here.
Correct.
Right, so you can turn it on and off like
exactly.
normal.
And what's really nice with this car is actually all the AC wiring for the clutch is in the chassis and not in the engine harness. So it's already just laying right there for me to just, change the connector and plug right in, and fingers crossed that, it will activate the clutch. If not, I'm more than capable of figuring that out myself and making it work. And the Link ECU has all the functionality, kicking the idle up and compensating for having AC on this motor.
What else have you done to the interior? You just have seats, Brid seats?
I have Brid seats. I have this Vertex wheel that they released. It's actually the only factory style wheel that they've ever done as far as now for any vehicle, and that actually lets me use all the factory functions on the steering wheel. The airbag's still there, the horn still works. It's really nice. This is a suede unit. I also bought the leather version to kind of figure out which one I was going to like better, but I feel like the suede kind of matches with the suede on the seats really nice. It's super subtle because it's still like a factory style wheel, and these seats, they're Brid seats, but they're black. They kind of blend in. They don't stand out. Yeah,
it's like subtle, but it's crazy at the same time.
Yeah, and they're super comfortable. I love these seats.
What blows my mind is that you weren't tempted to just take it around the block a couple times to get it to 5 miles, or even just, I don't know, do like a coffee run.
Yeah, I did not put a single mile on this car. I pulled it off the trailer in front of the shop and pulled it straight into the shop. It did not roll over 1 mile with the factory engine.
I'm so blown away.
Those 4 miles must have been driving on the boat.
Yeah, it's very impressive. It's super cool. I know Toyota has to put a certain amount of miles on it, probably just to kind of get it through its paces and make sure everything's working.
Yeah. Even the exhaust, when I took it off, I didn't have no black soot whatsoever. It looked brand new. You could probably eat off of it. Everything was just spotless. It was nice taking it apart. My hands didn't get dirty. It was amazing.
So the exhaust, did you have to custom make something?
Yeah, I did have to custom make something. I could have definitely blended it into the factory exhaust. Yeah, it was with the JZ. It's even on the same side of the chassis, so I could have easily just blended the downpipe into the factory exhaust, and it could have been a super stealth street car. But that's not my style. That's not what I did. I went with the straight pipe, 3.5 oval exhaust on this thing, dumped right at the rear axle, and it sounds great. It's got a G35 1050 turbo on it, and it's got all the right whistling noise and no blow-off valve, compressor surge all the way. You will never see any of my builds. I don't even like doing it for customers. I do not like running blow-off valves. It's compressor surge all the way.
Yeah.
It's just my style.
How much do you drive this? How often do you drive this?
Since I've built it, pretty much any nice day, whether I'm working and just running in errands or just out cruising. I've already done actually the first drive of this thing was to Weckfest USA car show.
Mm-hmm.
I drove it straight there. I was actually mildly street tuning it on the way just to make sure everything was good. It drove amazing. No issues, didn't have to pull over, no fires, no leaks. It was great. It was a great first drive. I couldn't have asked for more. I've already took home a couple first place trophies with this thing. It's definitely nice to get a little bit of recognition for how much work I put in. Even though it was a short amount of time, I put a lot of hours still in that short amount of time into making this car what it is right now.
It's so crazy to me that the shifter lined up perfect.
Yep, and it's the factory boot, the factory shift knob. It was dead center in the middle of the trans tunnel.
What are the chances of that?
Probably pretty slim. I did measure before I dropped the motor in, just kind of based off where I wanted the transmission to be and where the shifter placement was on the trans. And I do have a little bit of wiggle room. I could have, if it was too far back, I could have pushed the motor forward to make it work or bent the shifter, got some different style. But I got really lucky. It was dead center in the car, and it worked flawless.
So cool. So cool. Well, let's take it out for a ride, huh?
All right, let's do it.
All right, so we are in the 2J swapped GR86 2022. This is so weird. It's a weird feeling to be in here.
Yeah, it's super weird for me because this is my first new car too, and I've already changed everything about what Toyota did with the car. So it's kind of like, to me, this is how the car is. This is how it should have came off the lot, and it feels perfect. But
what made you want to build this versus the older one?
Honestly, it was just like I said before. It's just really the body kit. I wanted the body kit. I didn't really care about anything else. I didn't care if it was an actual Subaru. I didn't care if it was a Toyota. I wanted that body kit.
It's kind of funny to me because it's kind of like how people like us will buy wheels without realizing what car it will be on, or even thinking oh, I'll eventually buy this car, so I'm gonna get these wheels now.
Right, and even the wheels, I don't even have the wheels that I bought for this car yet. I'm using other wheels that I had laying around because everything happened so quick, and I just kind of had to improvise and use what I had, and luckily I had something that I could make work on this car, and it's not ideal, but they still look great, and it's actually the same wheel I ordered for the car, just in a 19-inch and a much wider spec, so I can run staggered.
That new. It's so clean. It's all all the USB plugs, everything still works.
Yep. All the Apple CarPlay works. All the turn signals work. One thing I don't understand what Toyota and Subaru were doing is the blinker stays on. I thought it was just the steering wheel, but I drove another stock one, and
you have to manually turn it off?
manually turn it off. You can bump it, and it'll flash, I think, 4 or 5 times, and then it'll shut off. But if you're sitting at a light, that's not enough time. So
I think that a lot of BMWs are that way too.
yeah. So maybe it's a new, I don't know if it's a Subaru thing or a Toyota thing or just a new car thing that they're doing. It's annoying, and I can't see the turn signals on this link
clutch is pretty aggressive, huh?
Yeah, it is a 6-buck clutch. It was basically what I had to do to put that kind of power to the wheels without going to like a twin disc setup. And that was a little overkill for a W series transmission, because eventually at that power, if you're being too aggressive with it, the transmission will exit the chat.
Yeah.
So I did not want to spend more on a clutch than I spent on the transmission. I would definitely rather use those funds to get a much stronger transmission, and then I'll get a clutch that's appropriate for the power that I'm trying to make.
Incredible. It is so rowdy just driving around slow. I can tell.
G35 1050, so it's got kind of like the T51 R mod built in on top of having compression surge with no blow off valve.
Oh, it just sounds so good. Everything right about a turbo car is it's this right here. This
It's so much fun, you know, just
this
like
feeling.
just playing with the sounds and driving around. It just makes it such a nice, like, I call this my weekend car.
Yeah.
The car is actually too low to get into my driveway at my house, so I can't even drive this car home along with my S15. It's just too low. It just doesn't work with my driveway, you know. But
JDM car problems, or tuner car problems. As soon as that boost kicks in, this sounds so good.
yo, Jeff likes to
Oh my god. It is so cool. It is so cool.
like, it drives perfect. I didn't mess with the alignment at all. Like,
Yeah.
it just drives straight. Like, such a great, like, just driver.
So
Makes
good.
all the right noise. A little annoying to drive because it's a little low right now, but I'm hoping the 19-inch wheels will fill the gap a lot better and allow the car to be a little bit higher off the ground to make it a little
Yeah.
bit more streetable.
And if you really wanted to, you could do a nose lift. There's something about this chassis, like, it's a shame that it came with 240 horsepower. I don't know.
Yeah, it
I-
drives so nice. It just, like,
I've driven a stock GR86, and while I understand that the normal population probably can't handle more than 240 horsepower, you know, this is like, this is right. This is awesome. I love it.
what do you think about the handling?
I mean,
Changing the spring rate.
it actually,
This is-
you know, surprisingly, it's not that stiff.
This is the basic coilover setup. I will actually be going with a nicer, probably 3-way coilover for this car in the future. But this is just, you know, the basic right off the shelf for a brand new GR, and it just works. It rides amazing.
It feels good. It's not even that it's loud, it just sounds really good.
Yeah,
It makes good
all
sound.
the right
and
noises.
plus the brakes seem to work pretty good
Yeah.
too.
So nice. Brake straight. Doesn't do anything weird.
So all of your temperature and everything is on here.
Yep, it's all right here on the dash. You can actually change all the layouts.
But like the stock fuel gauge and all that stuff still works.
Right.
this. I love that you brought this back to the dealership you bought it from. And
Oh yeah, I had to do that.
They're just dumbfounded, I'm sure.
I haven't brought it back to the service department. Let's check on my check engine light. See what they're gonna do about that. But
they're like, sir,
void all warranties.
yes, sir, your warranty. They can't run to the service department fast enough to void your warranty.
maybe one of them will be watching this video.
Yeah, this is so cool. Well, I've just only been able to get 2 laps. Oh. Probably should have rolled on that. Jeez. You know, the thing is, you're not even going that fast of speed, but the sensation that the sound and the way it moves makes it so much cooler. Makes it amazing.
Yeah,
I love it.
it makes all the right noises. Drives great. So super fun to drive. It's just a nice
Runs on pump
Yeah,
gas.
just pump gas. You just go to any pump.
Yeah, this is something special. This is so cool. Like, I don't know if you guys saw, but kids were going crazy, and you know, other enthusiasts either in their cars or on the street were just blown away. It's crazy because it's a black car on black wheels, but there's something special about it. Obviously the noise it makes, and the kit is just very loud but subtle in the same way, and that's kind of why I like this build a lot. Plus it's a brand new car, 4 miles, bro.